Heard me say that the largest group of people in America today are millennials and Gen Z. Yet, when it comes to voting, the folks who vote the most are those 65 and older. So the real question is, how do we get the next generation, millennials and Gen Z, to vote their power? Let's talk about it with my panel here in Navarro Grice, with the Black Student Union at MATC, Jakai Ali, community organizer, Javad Petty, 2 Real 414, and the state representative Lakeisha Myers. How we doing?
Doing all right.
All right, then. Give me a sense of what you are hearing from your peers, friends about this election. Are they interested? What are the issues they talking about? And what's being said?
Most people that I know and talk to really don't have faith in the political system. They consider it a shit stem. And really, a lot of my friends that I talk to, man, they really revolutionary minded, and they think that it's need to do away with the whole system.
So, all right, so let's unpack that. So if they're revolutionary minded, how do they propose doing away with the existing system?
Some people feel like we on edge of like another civil war because they feel like it's going on in other countries. Why won't it happen here?
Because it's not going to happen here. What I'm saying, but because again, what I'm interested in, because I've heard that before, and like for instance, I had a brother who hit me. He said that we were on Instagram, and he said until they change the electoral college, I'm not going to vote. Then I had to remind him that the electoral college can only get changed by the politicians. So the very folk who you don't want to vote for, that's who actually will change the U.S. Constitution. Then if it gets passed by the House and the Senate, signed by the president, then it has to go to all 50 states, and then you have to get them to ratify the change in the amendment. And he was befuddled by this, and I said, so it kind of goes against what you're doing by saying you want to not vote to change the system. So I'm curious, when you're having that conversations with them, how do they actually see this system changing?
I mean, because when you look at political theory throughout the world, you know, you have the ballot or the bullet concept. So I guess America education want to hide that and do away with that so people won't understand that type of philosophy, so it won't happen here.
So the folks who say the ballot or the bullet, because they're referencing a speech by Malcolm X, if they also read Malcolm X when he left the Nation of Islam and he created his own organization where he pledged to actually work with pastors and others when it came to voting.
Do they know about that? No,
Right.
Just like they don't know about a lot of stuff.
See,
It's education.
Right, and the only reason I'm pressing that because Jakai, what happens is I'll have individuals who will quote me what Malcolm X said, but they'll quote Malcolm X from 1961, but they will not say a word about Malcolm X in 1964, as if Malcolm X never evolved. And I think that's part of this thing, this dialogue we're trying to I'm trying to have with folks is like, you can quote Malcolm in 61, but do understand Malcolm also he had to also realize in order to change a system, you have to acknowledge work within a political environment.
I want to say it's an honor to be on this platform.
Glad to have you.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad to be here. I would say the greatest piece of advice that I've heard as it relates to the time we're living in and what must be done is to have faith in God, whichever way the wind blows.
You say faith in God, but I'm going to go biblical on you.
Faith without works.
When Jesus was walking across water, Peter started walking across the water, but Peter stopped believing. What happened when Peter stopped believing? He started drowning.
Okay.
The Bible also says that Jesus reached his hand out. He didn't reach his hand in, which meant Peter had to reach his hand out to grab Jesus' hand to get pulled out of the water. So what I'm saying to that, but folk have to recognize that we have a role to play in this process. God can't do it all. We got to do some work too.
I agree. To that, I'll say, how do you measure faith? You know, the scripture says, faith without works is dead.
Right. So the works part is register, vote, stay engaged. You not necessarily, well, God gonna take care of it.
That's one way to work.
Okay, well, if that's the case, and again, I'm talking about literally this campaign. If you pray for Kamala Harris to be president, how does that happen if folk don't vote? So let's say 20 million people vote for her to be president. How does she become president if they don't vote?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, you said we have to believe in God, and whichever way it goes, it goes.
I said have
What I'm
faith.
saying is,
I said
we can
the
have
best
faith,
piece of
we
advice
also have to do
I
some
heard.
work, which is vote.
Correct. You know, and the work that I'm referring to is doing for ourselves. You know, not expecting anybody else to fulfill our needs for us.
So unpack that. Do for ourselves. What does that mean?
Whatever we asking of anybody else, you know, we have to first be willing to put our best foot forward and attempt to accomplish it for ourselves.
Okay. See, Representative, I want to go to you on that point because I've heard folk talk about pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do for self. Elon Musk is the richest person in the world.
Unfortunately, yes.
People say he's self-made.
No.
That's an absolute lie.
Right. Absolutely.
He got to where he is
Because of apartheid,
tax breaks.
Tax breaks.
Because of tax incentives. That's government. If he did not get those tax breaks, the building of those batteries from the Texas government, from the Nevada government, from the California government, the New York State government gave him billions of dollars in subsidies to build a solar panel facility in Buffalo that completely imploded, and it didn't do that. He ain't the richest without government.
Right.
So that's a perfect example of we think he did for self in, quote, building his business, but without government, Tesla does not exist.
And I think you're absolutely correct, Roland, but when you look at it, I think the American electorate romanticizes the Elon Musk stories and people like that, so they can be like what people say in rap videos, oh, Donald Trump, self-made, all of these things, but not
Except for the $400 million his
except for the
daddy gave him.
Exactly, that piece. And except for Elon Musk growing up in apartheid era South Africa and business and all these other things that helped him do that. But then we come down on people who need traditional welfare as we see it in the United States. But we give corporate welfare every day. What's the difference? And I think that's what a lot of people need to understand and peel back the layers on. And like you talked about in previous panels, looking at making sure that we educate our public better so they can understand. When the brother on the end was talking about people are revolutionary minded, a lot of people romanticize revolution too. But they also don't understand that a lot of our leaders eventually got to the point where they realized that coalition building and working within the confines of establishment had to get them somewhere so you can change the rules. Jesse Jackson ran in 84 and 88 and was able to turn the Democratic Party on its head because you had more people now under the tent. So I think all of that all of the conversations have played a role in that. We just have to do a better job, and politicians included, of educating the public. Not too many of my peers actually do that or want to do that piece of it. We come visit church on Sunday and say, vote for me. We tell you why you should vote for us based on personality, but a lot of us are lightweights when it comes to policy.
Judge Vaughn, it's very interesting. There's so many. I look at a bunch of stuff on social media, and I literally go, what the hell are these folk talking about? I mean, I look at some of the stuff, and I'm sitting there going, I don't know what civics class they were in, what government class they were in, and that's why I call them YouTube professors, TikTok doctors, and that to me, I think also is a huge problem where we're getting information from, and what is credible information, what's misinformation, and what's disinformation.
First of all, is my mic on?
It's on.
Okay, first of all, Roland Martin, I just appreciate you for allowing me on your show. Watched a couple of your debates, and I want to personally thank you because you're very modest in Milwaukee compared to how you was. But to speak to the platforms, you know we living in a time where they allow anybody to have a platform. And one thing that I was hearing from being a credible messenger and somebody who speaks to the community, speaks to the lost souls, is that it's the same propaganda and misinformation with black people. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the N-word, but it's the difference between black people and hitters. And what I can tell you about that is that you got the hitters that don't care about politics and don't understand politics. So what they do is they don't research the facts. And one thing that a lot of black people know versus the niggas that don't know is that every administration either inherit a mess or take credit for the work that was done.
Right.
So Brother Cavalier already spoke to the 75 months consecutive Obama. But the other 2 years, he was cleaning up the mess of the previous administration. It's a lot of information that gets spent through the cycle. And it's crazy that the younger generation has to be excited about a vote instead of focusing on the actual issues at hand. And one thing that I don't like collectively is that this race has been more about gender, the color of somebody's skin,
Right.
and antics. And not to cut you off,
Whether
I want to
they're black
speak
or
to
not.
those black men that don't want to vote for a woman. It's crazy how 31 years ago that Tupac made a song called Keep Your Head Up and said, we came from a woman, got our game from a woman, got our name from a woman. And I wonder why we hate our women. To this day, you have a lot of underachieving men that are very upset. You mean to tell me you have a disdain taste in your mouth for a woman and your mother is a woman? You was raised by a woman. Everything we had come from the essence of a woman. So for you to sit up here and say, I don't want to vote for you specifically because you're a woman in a male-dominant industry and all the issues and the female empowerment and agendas that's been getting pushed and they finally getting their just dues, you want to tell me you don't trust your mother? You don't trust your auntie? So when I look at that, I despise that psychological trauma that
Right.
a man cannot take it, because I didn't watch men can't take authority from a woman, but they'll swallow their pride when a man say something. So that end of the day, they have a lot of immaturity, insecurity. So it's just a lot of things out here that bothers my spirit and my soul, because I came from the hood, I came from the ghetto, I love women. A woman come around, I straight right up. I don't even play. Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing? I could be the loudest mouth. I could be smoking a cigarette weed. You have to have, because they say you live long when you respect your elders. So all this propaganda, the misinformation that they are giving to our young people and making us believe that we have to be excited by the vote. That's why you're seeing all these concerts with rappers, because they're trying to excite us to the polls instead of us focus on the actual issues.
I had a brother, my son posted this, and he said, my son said, I've never seen somebody white tell their people not to vote.
That's it. That's
Yes.
it.
He said, the only folk I see who will go on social media platforms to say, your vote don't matter, they not gonna do anything, he said, are black people. And he said that, and a lot of folk said, dang, I never even realized that. See, the other thing when you're talking about men, you didn't say black men, you said men. It's in the data. We are living now in a world where men are upset, and you see the numbers. That's why Donald Trump is specifically targeting men. You look at the number, white men, Latino men. That's why when you watch, I've been in battleground states, five battleground states, or 6 different states in the last 4 weeks. Every football game, every commercial is transgender by design. They're hitting Kamala Harris, they're hitting Colin Allred in Texas. Every single commercial. I'm sitting there, I'm talking about it's 8 to 10 commercials. I saw a story, I think Republicans have spent $120 million specifically on transgender commercials because they're targeting a male demo.
Right.
And in the data, they're showing that you have an increasing number of men who are upset. They don't like that women are getting college educated. They don't like what they're making. And what I keep saying is, guys, this is real simple. What you're seeing is a course correction of women who have been secondary citizens in our society. The women were not allowed to advance. So what you're seeing are women, white women, black women, Latina, who are like, yo, we going to college, we getting jobs, we buying houses, because our society has been a patriarchal society.
Can I say something, Roland?
Yeah.
I just want to be honest with you, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know a lot about politics. But one thing I know, it's always somebody that passionately disagrees with you on your views. But I want to ask you something. Is this true or not? You have a lot of black people, influencers, artists, rappers, they're trying to put this narrative out here through the media that the economy was better under Trump. And remember I said black people versus niggas.
First of all, we don't use the N-word on the
Okay,
show.
but
You
you-
just say the N-word, but I understand your
you get-
point.
But them in particular, the N-words, the hitters, the economy was only good for them because it was good for criminals. People who started businesses, got PPP loans, got
Right.
scams. But what about that black man that worked an honest job,
Right.
lost his building? Because under Donald Trump, it was 2.5 million jobs lost. And this man gave tax breaks to the richest. You mean to tell me we pay more taxes than Jeff Bezos?
Right.
The guy
So-
on Amazon?
You're right.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
No,
this,
you're right. Yeah.
this information is, so people think the streets was only good for the people who was
Right.
living criminally and not doing things
Had
by the book.
a brother, I
and
believe.
somebody that did it by the book was struggling.
Yeah, had a brother who pulled me. Well, first of all, look, the guy who used to be my driver security,
Yeah.
I ain't got a problem saying it. His ass going to federal prison.
Yeah.
You know why?
PPP
PPP loan fraud.
Yeah.
Every time we went somewhere, he would listen to Joel Osteen talking about the Lord, and was sitting here ripping the federal government off. And you're right. That was I got an email from a brother at a Compton. He's like, man, he said we were getting paid under Trump, and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, because I don't quite recall because these things happen. Now, under Trump, the black unemployment rate reached its lowest point up to that point. Yes, it went lower under Biden-Harris. That was because, again, we had an awful economy from Obama comes in 2009, massive recession, stock market down, everything is down, unemployment is high. Then all of a sudden that's 9, 10, 11, and then it being rebuilt. And then all of a sudden it begins to pick up. 75 consecutive months, you say all of a sudden it takes off. Then of course,
Yeah.
December 19, economy start, then all of a sudden, then when COVID hits, then it goes into a tailspin. That actually happened. But all of these folks who are living like life was so grand, they were like, well, gas was cheaper than COVID. Because nobody driving.
Where? Yeah.
Of course it was cheaper. I mean,
Amen.
so that to me is what's crazy. And you're right. I literally had, I'm gonna speak to this here. I literally had an entertainer call me last night to say, bruh, I need you to talk to one of my guys because he is convinced that the economy will be better under Trump than Kamala Harris. And he said, I'm gonna call you this weekend so you can talk to him and walk him through the public policy. And it's without a doubt, unemployment has never been this low for this long in 50 years. And the notion that somebody who filed for bankruptcy 6 times is a great economic mind is absolutely crazy to me.
I got a few things that I want to say.
Go ahead.
Going back to the quote about Malcolm X, it's Kwame Nkrumah and Mao that these Eastern philosophies that come from. So it wasn't quoted from Malcolm X. It's like a real thing. You either gonna do one thing or two things, and something they don't want is bloodshed and war and all that. So it's like you either gonna go out and vote for a change in your life, or you gonna pick up a gun and get a change in your life. You know what I'm saying? I say that to say with the entertainment stuff going on, how can anybody in the information age expect, like when I go to class and I got a professor say, I'm tired of this. Which devil I'm gonna pick? With the better or two bads? We gonna look at the Democrat Party and say, why we gotta faithfully be Democrat since the 1960s? Is that why? Why is there facts out there that in Ripon, Wisconsin, the Republican Party was started by black folks and Native Americans? They want to put that under the table. We letting these folks take our party. Why we ain't having that conversation? So I'm saying there's some real people that's really like, it's a real John Brown. This real, and then these Arabs that keep coming over here, you don't think they're around here making moves in the hood? Like they right here on the corner in gas stations. You ask them people up here, how many churches is it? I wanted to say count the liquor stores. And we can go from there. That's just about the same. Probably more liquor stores. But that goes to say what I'm saying is it's some people in our age down when you having a political conversation, these your voters. Bro. Now it's on the hip hop level. If Tupac was alive and said vote for Kamala, everybody ride, and that's black. They kill them type of people off.
See, when we talk about entertainers, and this is the thing that, and trust me, I know a lot of them. There's a difference between a conscious entertainer and then one that is only about securing the bag.
Right.
And I think what has happened, I think when we talk about entertainment and even our culture, we have a secure the bag at all costs conversation and don't want to analyze what that cost is. So for instance, Dougie Fresh and I were having this conversation in Chicago at the DNC. It's a whole bunch of entertainers. I'm talking about securing the bag. But how many hip hop artists are dying in their 50s? Because of bad health care. Because of having no health care. Because it's not like you got a health plan with the record label. The point I'm making there's a direct correlation to the Affordable Care Act and black health. Never have we had the health care that we have now as a result of the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
But you do have one party, Speaker Mike Johnson, State Representative, said, we are going to get rid of the Affordable Care Act if Donald Trump wins and replace it. In 4 years, he's in Oval Office. He said we're going to replace it. And now one time, he had some concepts, but he didn't have a plan.
Right.
And so that's a real conversation. And I would say to any of those brothers, they got to understand that when they get sick, somebody's going to have to take care of you.
Right.
When we talk about literally the cost of insulin, if you are a black grandmother or a grandfather, $35 a month is huge compared to $400 a month.
Right.
And I just think that we have to just go to the source of it and challenge as many of our folk as possible with real quality information. And that, I think, is what is required to combat a lot of this stuff, because we also have to realize foreign entities are specifically targeting black people with this information. And we just got to realize that. Go ahead.
I think I think you're correct. I think, again, looking at it from this perspective, these brothers are college students on the end. You're talking about being able to stay on your parents. If your parents had a job with health insurance, you can stay on till you're 26 years old. You didn't have that before. You just went to college and was hoping you ain't get sick, and you could go to an infirmary somewhere on campus and they would give you something to patch you up. But I think all of that plays a part when you look at all of the issues that we see in our community, policies that would actually help us. We talk about here state-covered insurance in Wisconsin, Title 19. There are providers who won't even take Title 19 insurance. Under the Affordable Care Act, most of them do. It's people that drive way from northern Wisconsin to Milwaukee to go to the dentist because there's no dentist in the rural community that will even take their insurance because they have state insurance. So all of these things play a big role in our state. When you talk about the policies that exist for us, when the brother was talking about the ballot or the bullet, what you gonna take a bullet up to defend if you don't understand the policies that permeate in the society? So that's what I would have as a retort to somebody who said that. Like when he talked about, look at all of Malcolm, look at the coalitions that had to be built, and look at people like Bobby Seale, who's still here, who had to run for office and understand from the inside out. Marching is a young person's game, I tell you that. When we could see that from a couple years ago, we had the George Floyd marches. People marched all day, all night. And you started to see, it wasn't a whole lot of older people out there. And I'm a fresh 40. So I'm talking about people who wasn't going every night to protest. But you got to do something outside of the protest too.
Because I'll never forget, there was one brother who was interviewed, and he said, man, ain't nothing gonna change. I'm going to protest. And I said, bro, if you going to protest and not vote, you just going for a walk.
Yeah, right. Because you got to back it up.
I did. I literally said, dog, you just going for a walk. Because I had to explain to one brother, because he was like, man, these policies got to change. And I said, okay. Are you going to vote? No. I said, what's the root word of policy? He said, what do you mean? I said, poly. What's the root word of politician? Poly. I said, bruh, you can't change a policy unless you change a politician. And that requires voting. He never, ever put the two together. Wow. I said, Doc, I don't care who you are. That will not change unless you change the very people who are in political power. Go ahead.
It's a contact sport.
So it's crazy you was saying that. I had I had speaking to these young people at the we had did a free concert in Midtown Sunday, and I was asking them is they gonna vote, and they kept it real like, man, I ain't. And I asked all three of them, I said, y'all mother still living? They said, yeah. Do your mother work? Go vote for her. Your grandma still alive? She get benefits? Go vote for her. You ain't gotta vote for you, young dog. Go vote for her. Because them the people who gonna be affected by you not going to the polls. Because that's the thing about it. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is #1 in the country. Most segregated city in the nation. 4th poorest. #1 for mass incarceration of a black man in the metropolitan area 53206, which is my area where I grew up at. 13th to right behind North Division. These statistics are the issues that we need to be focused on to bring things to our community. Like when Brother Ed Hennis was talking about the poverty. After we leave here, we still in poverty. So to create opportunities, wishful thinking for me would be to organize the black vote. But we'd be too powerful if we do that. If we organize the black vote, we'd be the most dangerous race of them all.
Absolutely.
And that's what they're afraid of.
Yeah.
So all this dividing, securing the bag, because you know what they do every year. They come throw a bag at this people, this organization, try to cut this organization out to get a piece of the bag, and they pay people pennies, cuff the rest. We all cutting each other out for a little piece of money, but not understanding that it's a bigger agenda to get pushed.
See, that's why earlier when I specifically mentioned churches in Divine Nine, the reason I mentioned that, because those are the 2 institutions in our community that are self-funded.
That's it.
They're self-funded. Those 2 institutions, you do not, our civil rights organizations are corporate funded.
That's right.
Divine Nine and black churches are the only 2 that are self-funded. And when you are self-funded, then you can control your own destiny. But that's why what I keep saying, though, is those institutions, you just use the key words. You must organize and mobilize.
Yeah.
And if we're able to put ego aside, and the other thing for me is I don't get caught up in who didn't show up. Like if somebody might say, man, we should have had every seat filled. I said, I don't talk to empty chairs. I talk to who's sitting in a chair. And so if I have an impact on 5 people and there are 500 missing chairs, hell, I'll start with 5. I'm going to get to 500.
Right.
But I would rather have 5 committed folk
Right.
than to have 500 folk who are here for a show. And then once we say, well, we're going to go to work tomorrow, then they never show up.
Wow.
And so I just think that just has to be our change of mind.
But you never have 100% participation
Oh, never.
either, even with Dr. King. And
Everybody didn't march for
everybody
King, they
didn't march
lied.
for King, they lied.
They lied, they lied, they lied, they lied. I'm going to come down to each one of you here and give just one issue. One issue that you would say to somebody who's considering the couch why they must use their power to vote. Who wants to go first? And there's a lot you can bring up. Let's pick one. What you got?
You looking at me.
All right, I'll start down here. Pass the mic down. I'll start with him. What you got?
Somebody that a reason they should
One.
because if they have problems and won't change, then according to what society here in America is telling them, you got to get out and vote if you really want to have an impact. So you got to choose the difference that you want.
So you basically said, voters, shut the hell up.
I'm saying
I got
my
you.
real philosophy is that I don't believe in that,
Don't believe in what?
but I can't go there to die. You know what I mean?
No, you can go there.
No, I'm saying on the whole scale because it's people. That's what I'm here. I'm representing the other side that ain't even with what y'all talk about. Get out and vote.
Right.
Which they don't believe it's really going to make a difference.
Right. And this is here's why I asked for the issue, because for the people who think that when I ask them, give me the 3 things you care about, that you as an individual care about.
Me?
No.
Oh,
I'll ask you. Give me your 3.
Prison reform.
Prison reform. Stop. Prison reform, housing.
And I would probably say something about business taxes or something.
Business and taxes. Gotcha. Let's deal with number 1. Prison reform. How do you reform the prisons?
Stop sending everybody there.
Okay. Who sends them?
Judges.
Nope. Nope. Not judges.
They sell?
Nope.
You got to
Nope.
tell me now.
The number 1 most important person that's involved that can affect prison reform is the district attorney.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is the DA elected?
Yes.
Yes.
So if you care about prison reform, how do you not vote for the DA? See what I'm
I'm
saying?
saying it is another answer though.
No. What's the other answer?
Revolution.
No, it's not.
Oh,
You just said prison reform.
Yeah.
Who funds the prisons?
taxpayers.
Taxes.
No. Who funds the
The
prisons?
federal system.
State legislature.
Okay.
90% of all prisoners are state or local. Only 10% are federal. But you could change federal law, but 90% are local state. She's a state legislator. They vote on funding for prisons every single year.
That's right.
So, if you want to change prison reform, again, you got to figure out what is the root cause of our system. It's who we arrest, who we convict, who we lock up. So if the district attorney says, I'm not charging for these cases, they can't go in jail. So the DA is the most important person in order to attack prison reform because they're the ones who decides who gets prosecuted and
So
who
if
doesn't.
voting ain't getting him out, don't you know it's another way that somebody
No,
can get him out?
no. First of all, if voting not getting them out, that means you got to change the DA. So that's why Larry Krasner in Philadelphia, Monique Worrell in Florida, where you had Aramis Ayala in Florida, Kim Foxx in Chicago, you had Garcetti in L.A. That's why the right wing is against progressive district attorneys
Right.
because they are bringing a different viewpoint to criminal justice reform. The second thing you said, housing. Housing. Who builds houses?
A lot of different
No, developers.
developers.
Who creates the laws for developers to build houses? City councils.
Councils.
So if you don't vote for the city council to change the laws to build more housing, you're not going to get more housing. Between 2010 and 2019, we built 6.5 million homes in the United States. But the previous decade, we built 14.5 million. We built the fewest number of homes since the 1940s. Why? Because of the home foreclosure crisis. Developers also went out of business. The problem we have housing right now, we don't have enough housing stock because we haven't built enough homes in the past 20 years. So when Vice President,
homes,
Huh?
these foreclosed homes, you don't think it's enough homes available for everybody to have?
no.
Nope.
Do you know why? Because private equity, Wall Street, by 2030 is going to own 40% of
of
all
housing
single-family
stock.
homes. 40%. So the reason you have right now, even the foreclosures, because they want to flip those to private equity because they want people to be renters. So if you want to impact housing, you look at. I just had the CEO of the National Housing Conference on my show. He said the housing plan, the Vice President Kamala Harris, is the most comprehensive housing plan they've seen in more than 2 decades. Donald Trump doesn't have one. What was your third issue?
Went to tax.
You said economic and taxes. Who decides taxes? On the federal level, who decides that? Congress, right? Congress. Any bill that deals with money has to start in the House of Representatives per the Constitution. So House, then Senate, then the President signs it. So if you care about taxes, if you care about how taxes are, how they're being administered, it's Congress. The tax loopholes in this country were created by Congress. The reason Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes because the tax code is built for people in real estate, land. That's why he didn't pay taxes for almost a decade. That's Congress. So if you say I don't vote, then I can't actually impact criminal justice reform because that's who actually impacts criminal justice. DAs, judges, lawmakers, they all are voted. Second, if I care about housing, understand housing is directly tied to public policy. When the city council of Milwaukee decides to allow development to take place, they can mandate for the number of affordable housing units. That's a part of the deal. You want tax breaks? You got to build extra affordable homes. That's elected officials. And the third point is your tax policy. The exact same thing. So the 3 issues that you care about has a direct correlation to voting. So if you don't vote, none of those three things can be addressed.
Now, if the political system is not how you want it, why those the only
If the political system is not how you want it, the only way you're going to change the political system is if you actually vote. Because guess what? If you don't vote, you won't change a thing. Because if you think you can grab a gun to change it, they got more guns.
Oh, but what if they do it themselves?
Who?
What if we wake up? Donald Trump said on TV, he said, if I don't win, there's going to be some bloodshed in this country. So I'm saying, if they haven't started their own little things in our own hood,
And guess what?
drop a bomb or
And
something.
guess what happened? When they acted the fool on January 6th, 900 of their asses are sitting in jail right now. Because the Department of Justice has prosecuted every single one of them. What's your issue?
Can I say what I want to say?
Roland Martin Unfiltered. What's your issue?
So you saying like a curse? I can curse?
What's your issue?
You know, Jesus cursed. He saw the
No Jesus curse.
he saw the fig tree and he said, since you have not produced fruit, you will never produce fruit.
Okay.
You know, you said an important word earlier that you said we like to run from. Accountability.
Okay.
That's my issue. You know, oftentimes.
What's the issue? Accountability?
Yes, sir.
Accountability regarding what?
Right. Okay. We look outside of ourselves for somebody to do something for us that, you know, we're not willing to do for ourselves.
Such as?
Whoever, you know, we decide to write down on these next days to come, you know, I would just hope that we hold ourselves accountable to wake up in the morning.
What's your issue?
And I asked if I could say what I wanted to say.
Policy issue.
Right. And I asked if I could say what I wanted to say.
Right, but that's not a public policy issue.
Okay.
So what's your, out of all the stuff out there, I mean, environment, whatever, what do you care about? What do you actually care about?
I care about us holding ourselves accountable. You know, if we gonna put our support behind anybody, you know, I will hope that we wake up in the morning and attempt to do something for ourselves, you know, as we support whatever it is, you know, we say we think is going to be beneficial
Is it
for
voting
us.
for the person you want to vote for, do something for yourself? If I vote for Vice President Kamala Harris over Donald Trump, am I not putting myself, isn't that me doing that?
I would hope that you will pair that with some, you know, some self-initiative. That's
You
what I'm
clearly
saying.
don't watch this show, because that's what I do every day. But that's what I'm saying. But my point, but again,
I didn't
but
say
no,
you
keep
don't do
saying-
it.
You keep saying self-initiative. What I'm saying is the act of voting
Is
is a
self-initiative.
self-initiative.
Okay. So-
Me deciding
Right.
who I'm going to vote for president, House, Senate, governor, state rep, state senate, county commissioner, county judge, school board, city council, mayor, that is self. That means I have a self-interest in this person winning to affect me and my community.
Okay.
Okay. What's your one?
So I'm gonna get back to your initial thing, then I'm gonna get to my one where you said the reason why people should vote, why they should get out here and vote. I personally believe, like Jeezy said, he said, "Trap or die." I'm telling you to vote or die, because if you don't vote, you're killing your future. If you don't vote, you're killing your opportunities. If you don't vote, you're missing out on one of the most important historical elections that we probably will have in a long time. This is the beginning of something new and great, and something impactful and powerful and inspirational to the generation of people, young women, young people, because regardless if the other party win, he only can do 4 years. We want 8. So I would think that would be. And to get back to my issue is, I'm a mass incarceration guy. I don't like the probation and parole system here in Wisconsin because 76% of men, black men, are back in prison without a new case just for revocation. We have a hearsay law here where Mr. Roland could be on parole for a shooting case, and a female can get mad at Mr. Roland, call his PO and say he shot at me. No shot spotters, no guns, no shells found, nothing. And I can send you back to the prison just off the words of someone.
And that's because state lawmakers allow for that to become law.
And that is one of the worst. Minnesota actually was the last state that they revived that, because they had that same, and they have it. The hearsay law is a crazy law in Wisconsin, but there's also a law that states that if you have 5 years of probation and you're out 3 years, and they revocate you for 2 years, you go back and you start your whole
Yep,
5.
there you go.
So 5 years, you're talking to a guy. I turned 4 years into 10. Because of that same, you start you over. You keep starting you over. And that's one of the worst laws that ever was created.
And again,
for black men
the
here.
reason that law is what it is because Republicans in this state, gerrymandered districts, have a super majority. And that's why that state Supreme Court race was so critical. By changing the legislative maps, you're likely going to have a different legislature in Wisconsin. And you may be able to change that law because folk voted in that state Supreme Court race. Your issue.
My tried and true issue, I'm a teacher by trade, so education. I think with a lot of what is happening on the local level here now, there are 13 to 16 schools on the north side of Milwaukee that are slated for closure in the public school system. We've had our school district lost $45 million due to error with the school board. And this has all happened in the last 6 months. So looking at where we are now, we see the bleeding of our school system that's happening when we're losing students. Those students are trickling into other school districts that surround Milwaukee, but none of the school districts in the state are funded adequately. And that's, again, on the state legislature, because we've not done that well at all.
Well, and again, the point there,
you got to vote.
School board races
Yes.
are typically across the country
Low.
the most lowest,
Yes.
has the lowest turnout. So for everybody black, understand, we could literally take over the entire school board if we mobilized
and voted.
ourselves. It ain't that hard. It ain't that hard. I appreciate all of y'all. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Folks, we'll be right back on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.